What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today another review, and an interesting review because this one looks a lot like the Dave C FPV quad, but no, it's not a clone. It's their own iteration here, and they've taken note, I believe, from all the reviews out there. Mine seemed to have a wobbly front arm, and it was only connected by one bolt on there, so I didn't like that part of the design. I wish it had two bolts holding it nice and stable. It was loose when I got it, and it flew terrible when I got it up in the air. The Rekon 3 had a lot of vibes, and even after I tightened everything up all over the quad, I still had vibes in there, so I couldn't get it tuned out and flying smooth on a single 18650 battery. But this one has design changes. It's a unibody on the bottom. It has dual strut support on each arm here. It has a top plate, and it has no TPU across the bottom here like the Dave C design does. So I was able to get my Insta360 Go up front on here, top of the TPU mount right there, and I have an Immortal T antenna as well mounted to the front, and I've just got push-on props, so hopefully they'll stay on today during our test flight. But we're going to see how, most importantly, how it flies, the tune. Is it good out of the box? We hope so. And does it fly as long as the Dave C FPV Rekon 3? So durability test, tune check, and flight test right here. So we're going to do some cruising out in the field today. It's beautiful, and it's a lot cooler today. It's like maybe 85 degrees versus like 115 yesterday. So summer is here, and so it's a Fly Fox. Let's go ahead and put this one up in the air and see what this one's all about. I'll give you my final opinion after we do some flying, as always. Let's go fly, you guys. Here we go. Okay, guys, let's go ahead and do the FPV flight test of the Fly Fox NANO3. Pretty cool that this came out, and you know, I have low expectations sometimes when I see a quad like this come out. It feels like an experiment in a way, you know? So to pull something out of the box and it actually works with a decent tune on here, that's impressive. You can see in the FPV footage down below, that's the Runcam Racer 3 camera on there, and right now I only have it set to 25 milliwatt, so there is some breakup I was noticing behind trees and things like that, but you can crank this thing up to like 400 milliwatts, so you might get a little shorter flight time. I'd have to experiment with that and see, but this is the result of what it flies like out of the box, and I haven't touched anything in beta flight, so that's kind of impressive. I was able to just get out there and cruise, and it's not as hot a day today as it was the other day. The other day it was like 110 degrees when I was flying, so today it's backed off into the 80s and a much nicer day to fly, so not quite as much heat. But one thing I noticed about this quad, like right away, was the fact that it tracks really well. And tracking, I mean like flying it in a straight line while doing some nice camera pans and curves, and really I don't see a whole lot of difference between the stabilized video that you're seeing on the full screen from the Go 2 and the analog video. It's nice and smooth, and with the nano camera I can really see where I'm going, and behind thick tree canopy like that you're going to get some breakup. If you raise this antenna up above the quad too on a zip tie, that's going to give you way better reception. So just a tip for the new guys, a lot of times what we do is we raise the antenna up above the quad and get it away from the battery bay. The battery bay may be blocking that VTX and causing it to do that. So, the great thing about this camera is that it is a really nice camera, and it's super fast. So it makes flying low and fast feel fun. It feels like a race quad when it's low to the ground. And up high is where you can see a lot of the jello. If there's any jello in a tune or vibrations, and right there I had total trees in front of me right there, and my antennas that broke up. But you'll see vibes way up high. And there's the roll rate, and I think the roll rate is pretty soft. And the video for the analog feed and the Insta360 Go is not going to match up because I'm running 60 frames per second on the large screen video that you see. So it's a little off there. I try to get it lined up as best I could for you guys, but man, that's pretty cool how well this quad flies. It's not bad. And the greatest thing about it, I think, is the fact that you can buy a cheap battery for this quad and get out there and just cruise. Look at the wind. It was actually blowing quite a bit. My first original flight test for the Rekon 3 from HGLRC, which is the other version of this 1S 18650 pack style quad. It was windy like today, and it had the worst jitters on it, and I was really, I mean, maybe mine was a prototype, but I was really disappointed. So I went to my laptop, I sat there with Diego, and we tried to tune it for maybe a solid hour, and I could not get the vibes out of it. Even after I pulled the whole thing apart and tightened up that screw on that front arm. And so I had all kinds of problems. I finally got everything to where it was flyable, but it wasn't super enjoyable. And then we had a fail-safe, and it hit the concrete out here, and I broke an arm. And the motor snapped clean off of it. So that's one thing about that. It's not quite as durable as this one. I feel like if this one hit the concrete, it's so light, and this one has a beefed up version of that frame. Well, it's not even a version of that frame. It's a whole new frame. And it's thicker carbon. I believe this is like 2mm carbon on the bottom of this quad versus maybe like 1.5. The other one is just really flimsy, and you can even move the arms with your fingers. Like it has a lot of flex to it, and the point of that design is to be able to like streamline your weight and get it as light as possible for the longest flight time. And that's what a lot of these designers are doing. They're trying to make these quads light for you so you can get a nice long flight time. But what do you guys think about this? What do you think about this out of the box? This is pretty good. I'm not upset about this. I think that if I put a mini right-hand circular polarized antenna on the back of this Panda 400 VTX, this thing would be solid. And also cranking up the VTX power. I'm only running 25 milliwatt today, which for this flight review was kind of a mistake, but it does have smart audio enabled, so you can use your sticks to go in there and change that. You can change the power, the bands. The Panda RC VTX is quite a nice VTX. Super, super smooth. And the cool thing about this quad is that with a 1S18650 battery, I mean, 10 minutes, if you got a minimum of 10 minutes per battery, you bring out 4 or 5 of those batteries, it's a lot of flight time. That's a lot of fun. I'm going to recommend you guys get those Samsung batteries down below. There's a link in the video description to some Samsung batteries, and those are the best quality ones that I've tested. And you should be able to get a cruising 15 minutes on a non-windy day. When you have a little more wind, it's going to be a little bit of a headwind. It's going to draw more amps out of the battery. It's just going to fight harder to get back home. And that video is really out of sync now. It shows me coming down the road there, but that's okay. And that little tree there has grown up quite a bit. It's like twice the size it was a while back. With all this heat, all these crops are suffering, but right as I fly by that pole, if you go back and look at that again, it's a high power antenna up there, and at 5.8 really doesn't like that antenna. Whenever I get close to that pole, I almost get a blackout. I don't know what kind of signal they're pushing off there. But I love the way this flies, smooth, low to the ground. That's where this quad is fun. It feels like almost like a tiny whoop. It has a really nice flat profile on the bottom of it too, so if you kind of like airplane landed it on the concrete, it'd be likely not to flip over. It's really flat across the bottom. So I feel like I have a ton of clearance when I'm getting really close to the ground. And it feels like a little race quad. It's just so cool. So I think that what they have done here, like the design itself, it is a much better design in my opinion, because they just simplified everything. And that's really like what you want out of a quad. Like, I love some of the designs that look super cool, but sometimes I feel like they're over designed. And just a flat standard unibody frame on this, a little bit thicker. It's almost like they kind of like took notes on the original Recon 3 and watched that whole evolution and then just made it a little better. And I was wondering who Dave C was going to pick to release the Recon 3. I had a feeling maybe he's going to do flywheel again, but then it was HGLRC that got the design. But here comes the Fly Fox, making waves. I was tempted to try a power loop with this quad, but I dare not on 1S. I feel like I'd end up in the top of that tree and we'd just be stuck. So I think this one's worth the money. I really think that you guys would be impressed with it out of the box. Like, for that price point, what you get is nice. And a lot of battery options. You can get batteries anywhere for this guy. It's freaking awesome. Go down the street, order them off Amazon if you want. I'll put some super cheap priced Samsungs down below again. And it was like, it's one of those days where I feel like I could just keep flying. It's nice and cool outside, beautiful, not a lot of wind. And when you get to the end of an 18650 pack, they will just tank on you. So be careful with your 18650s when you get low. Down to 2.8, and you should be good to land. Let's go check it out on the bench. All right, guys. Welcome to the bench. Welcome back from the flight test. Let's check out the Fly Fox on the bench, and let me talk about what this quad is all about. It is a redesign of the original Dave C FPV 1S 18650 style quad. You know, this was going to happen. They were going to make their own version. I'm glad to see that they didn't totally copy Dave C's design, because that would just, you know, not be cool in our community. No one likes a total clone. I'm glad to see that they used a 400 milliwatt VTX. That's right, 400 milliwatt VTX. I was running 25 milliwatt today, so that might be why the video was choppy. Also, this antenna doesn't stick out so far, so if you get one, bring this antenna out and maybe zip tie it off the back. There is a little bit of a hole here on the back of this TPU mount for this, and there's actually two holes in case you had antennas coming out the back. So if you guys are flying XM Plus, that's where you can bring your antennas out with some posts. And up front, we've got thicker, right away, much thicker sidewalls for the camera mount. Kind of bows out a little bit there with the Mortal T mount, but this seems to be more sturdy than what we had on the HGLRC Rekon 3. We have a 20x20 mount here, and this is a Maytech F411 flight controller. And it also has 6 amp ESCs on here. So since we're only running 1S 18650 battery on here, we really don't need anything bigger than 6S. These motors are also the RCN power motors, and I've talked about these just recently. We had another quad with those same type of motors, 1202 series motors, 11,500 kV. And these are Gemfan 3018 props. So 3-inch, you can get multiple colors of these, and no screws needed on top of these. They actually pressure fit really nice on top. You could use a couple bolts if you were afraid they fly off, but I really don't think these are going to fly off. 2 bolts on the bottom holding each motor on. And I love that this frame is a little beefier because it's just going to be more durable in those crashes. The Rekon 3 is really fragile. So I'm just going to put it on the scale real quick, and let's get like a dry weight, meaning no battery on there. I'm 72.1 grams without the battery and without an action camera. So with the 18650, getting us up to 118 grams on the dot, which is great. And I'll put the Insta360 Go 2 on there just for fun. We'll put that right there, and we're not even at 150 grams, 144.8 grams. That's crazy. So the price on this one is $160.99. So $160.99, and that's without the receiver. If you add TBS Crossfire, that's going to get you up to $191. You can get an XM Plus pre-installed for $178, and then the FlySky AFHDS 2A receiver is going to get you up to $171. So super light. And I gotta say, this little quad is a cruiser. It has a much better tune than what I got on the Rekon 3, which is kind of surprising because usually HGLRC sends me stuff that is fairly ready to go, and I kind of feel like I was let down by the tune on there because I got so excited. There was so much hype surrounding this type of quad on the Facebook forums, and everybody was talking about it. I mean, I remember when he released his first initial idea and concept for this quad, and I was super excited. I love the idea of this. Just being able to go down the street and get a battery for this is freaking awesome. These take a little longer to charge than your standard LiPo. I'll put the current charger I'm using for my 18650s down below as well, so you can get a combo if you want. And I'll put some links to these batteries. These are, this particular battery is not that great. This is an older one. If you get the Samsung ones, you should be able to get a 15-minute flight if you're just cruising and not really hitting the high end of the throttle. The big point of long range is to get the lowest amount of throttle you can possibly get while keeping the nose of the aircraft up and heading in a straight line without dropping. And that's what most long range pilots are doing. They're just trying to max out their battery time. But just ripping around the field, I was able to get like 10 minutes flight time on my old battery. I mean, this is dirt old and dirt cheap. 18650 probably was a $3 battery. And that's the other thing about 18650s. The price might have gone up recently, inflation with everything. But I also like the way that this has no TPU case around the whole thing. The body itself is all open frame design, which is awesome. You have 2 bolts in the front, 2 bolts in the back. You have 2 bolts in the center here, so 6-bolt top plate, and you have 2 bolts holding down this 18650 case. Now, positive goes in the front here, so you guys want to like make sure that you maybe take like a red paint marker and make yourself a little red mark across the front there. It will tell you that that's positive, and negative in the back. But if you get that reverse polarized, I'm not sure it has any protection. You might fry your quad if you put the battery in wrong. So make sure that you don't plug the battery in reverse polarity. You've got USB port on the bottom here, 20 by 20 mount stack. Actually, that's 16 by 16 on the back for that Panda VTX, and that's a nice VTX. This Panda RC 5.8 It has indicator lights on there, and I believe it also has a physical button on there as well. It might not, just smart audio possibly. I don't see the physical button. And then I have my TBS Crossfire Nano right above it and a TPU mount, which is super cool, right inside there. And they actually put a little space there for you to be able to get your bamboo skewer in there to press that button to bind it up, which is awesome. So I think overall, like, I love this streamlined, stripped down design. It is super simple, and the tune on here, yeah, it's about 80% better than what I had before on the Nano 3. So if you want like a cruiser, this one is definitely one to look at, and being able to put your Insta360 Go up here or a decased GoPro, having that option is nice. There's enough space to do that. And I just took a zip tie and ran it around this camera for the flight test, and this camera does really, really well. So the Insta360 Go 2 is just so much better than the original one. Really, really nice camera, and a little bit larger lens as well, and a little bit longer battery time. And this one flies and records for 30 minutes versus the older one only getting like 4 minutes, I believe it was, on the Insta360 Go. So pick up a 2. I'll put the link down below for that one as well. and you'll have a freaking awesome FPV camera. This thing rocks. And these are definitely the props that I'm going to suggest for you guys. The Jim Fan 1318 Hurricanes. They have a 1.5 millimeter shaft. So if you're buying these for this quad, make sure you buy the 1.5 millimeter shaft. There's also a version of this with 1 millimeter shaft. So that would be too small to get on these motors. But I love the design. Simple and no wobbly arms out of the box like the Rekon 3. So I was expecting that this one wouldn't do as well, and it actually did better. So yeah, amazing. Fly Fox, great job. It comes in a not a fancy box at all. It's actually just a black box. Quad's in this box. You get your extra props and your Panda RC VTX card, and that is as simple as it gets. 170 bucks, and great tune on here as well. So I'm expecting that this one should sell pretty good. I'll put a link down below as well to another type of antenna that you can put on here that will be better than this dipole antenna, because at 400 milliwatt you should get some crystal clear video on this Runcam Racer 3, and this is a great camera for this quad. And I love how fast and low and smooth this quad could fly. It felt like I was on rails just a foot off the ground, kind of like some of your smaller micro brushless. It is really a lot of fun to fly. So thanks again for watching my reviews, guys. This one is I'd say 4.5 stars for this one. So this one is a good one, and I didn't have any problems with it. So that's a great thing for a quad that's relatively unknown. So you can check out the link down below, guys. Please stay humble and kind out there, and subscribe on the channel, and don't forget to make your comment on this video for the July giveaway. I'm giving away an Ishi Novice 4 ready to fly. I'm going to send it free shipping to your door, so make sure you make your comment, let me know where you're from, and subscribe on the channel. Those are the three requirements for getting into that giveaway. So guys, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.